Good morning, everyone. It's morning for us, but it could be afternoon and evening for you. But it's lovely that you've dropped by to listen in. Today, I'm with the lovely Mette Louise Holland and Jacob Rabin, and we're looking forward to having a brief conversation to give you a little insight into how we just drop into conversations at the Viva event, which is where we're so pleased that Mette and Jacob are coming back this year to organise some groups and talk to us as speakers. So let's proceed. So if I put the first question, which is, can you just give an example of how, or talk about a major or significant change that has occurred in your lives in any of the areas that we discussed since you've been gaining an understanding of the principles? Mette first.
Yeah, and isn't that a lovely thing to talk about, and just relive it? I never get tired of speaking about how my life has changed since I met the principles. I mean, it has changed across the board, and it happened like this. And I feel so grateful to have come across an understanding that in itself could change so much for me, make so much change happen. I mean, I have been trying my whole life to change just a little thing here and there, and I had never dreamt of how much change was possible and how easy it could come when I stopped trying and when I saw something that I hadn't seen before. So there's a lot of to talk about in that question. I did think about something the other day that was one of the changes. I was sitting in a train just a couple of days ago, and I was really happy because of something. Because I had bought a pair of boots at a really good price. Do you know that kind of feeling? Maybe women would recognize that. I felt so good. And I was just reflecting back to a conversation Jacob and I had a couple of years before, when I started to learn more about the principles. Because I was in that train with these boots. I felt so grateful to have seen where happiness is really coming from, because this makes this understanding enables me to just really go with the feeling and enjoy when I feel good, because I have been doing some shopping, and at the same time it prevents me from shopping too much or eating too much or whatever too much, because I want more of that feeling. So I was reflecting back to an insight I had in the beginning of this understanding, because I was reflecting back then about this thing that sometimes it really seems like happiness comes from things and situations. I was just reflecting on that, because I was starting to see that we're feeling our thinking, and I was like, oh, does that mean I can lose this happiness all the time? Because obviously none of us is going to be able to keep thinking about these boots all the time. And as soon as that thinking disappears, I get a new feeling from the new thinking. And I was speaking with Jacob about that. And I'm not sure what came from him and what came from me, but what I saw in that conversation is that there is two kinds of happiness. There is the real deal, and there's a made-up one. And the made-up happiness feels good too. And we can just enjoy it. But it's not there all the time. The made-up happiness is the happiness that I get from my thinking. When I think about these boots, like, oh, it was a really good price, and I can't wait to try them on. And this thinking will, as it goes on in my head, I feel good. And then after a little while, I'll think about something new, and I'll have a new feeling. So it's a come and go thing. But in that conversation we had, I realized that there's a deeper feeling a deeper like happiness, or whatever you like to call it, that I can never lose. And it's there even when I don't feel good, because it's a deeper feeling before my thinking. And this is one of the gifts, as I see, from this understanding that really is a life changer. When you start to see, you have to see it for yourself, as you know, it's not intellectual, it's not theoretical. But when you realize it's true, you have it for life. So I just saw that before our thinking, there's a deeper feeling. We call it stuff. We call it love. We call it freedom. We call it peace. We call it like presence, joy. We can call it whatever, and we'll never really describe it because it's more. Yesterday, it occurred to me, it's the smell of the universe. Life in itself feels good. And we can't really explain it, but we can experience it. And this feeling can never go away because this is what everything is made of. This is everywhere. Sometimes we don't feel connected to it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. It's just like in England or in Denmark, sometimes the sun doesn't shine. Oftentimes. But it doesn't mean it's not there. And in that realization, I felt free. Truly free, because I saw that there's nothing at stake. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just like the way it is. I can't lose gravity. I can't break gravity. And it's the same way with this feeling. There's nothing to do about it. It's there for us. And we can always fall back to it. So it just made me so really, really grateful in that train. It's like, it's also really just an everyday experience, like, or like it's useful in an everyday life, because it makes me just able to enjoy what is when it's there and not panic too much when it's not.
It's beautiful. I could just sit and listen for a lot longer, actually, and it just it's such a good reminder. And for me, I can completely agree that it's a felt experience, and yet when we share those, how valuable that can be, and how special, just so that other people think, oh, that's really interesting, and then it may go out of their minds, but then they could find themselves in a similar moment, and oh, that's what she was talking about, because it's now real for me. And so I think there's the sharing part and connecting. This has such great value. Thank you ever so much. Yes. Jacob.
Yeah. I think the biggest change now, when we talk back from when we first came across understanding, the biggest change I see, and I see it almost every day, is when things kind of spin out of control and there are some heated arguments around the house with the kids or whatever. It's never, I don't know, it's the heaviness to those fights is just not there anymore. There's just a lightness to it, even though we might get very, like the kids might fight and shout and things can get pretty out of hand. And at the same time, it's like there's no seriousness to it.
Yeah.
And that, I just see it again and again, and I just think that is really a huge difference. And it might, between Mette and I, between me and my kids, between the kids themselves, when there's trouble, some problems with bullying, whatever, in schools, and perhaps when our kids, it's like, upset about it, whatever. It's just, it's so much lighter to travel over that rocky ground when life seems like this is hard, this is going to be difficult, whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's just a huge difference. It's like before, it's completely the other way around. Like before, when something bad happened, and we would get emotionally upset, we would just dive right into it. Yeah, and that was never really the recipe for success. So that's a huge difference.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And when I was just pondering then about, well, if it would take just one generation, really, wouldn't it? I mean, I guess you're not thinking your children would need to go off on a transformational course necessarily. Just living in that feeling, as you know, as much as we're able to. And we're still human and going to forget it, and that's fine too, because you know that's good practice ground, isn't it? Because life's going to be like that throughout, isn't it? And I was thinking back, you were just describing how heavy my parenting years were. The serious and the fear. I mean, the absolute fear. I'm doing this wrong, and I don't know how to deal with this, and how do other parents do it? And you know, I don't want to live like that. And of course, it's. I just guess it's when the understanding starts rippling out, then that's the job's done in a way, isn't it? And they'll go on their journey of learning and experiencing. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's great, and I think it's a very natural thing for kids. So it's just like they reconnect with how they used to be when they were like very young. Because when we look at our kids when they're very small, they simply can't hold on to an argument or a fight, or they let go. It's so natural. Oh, this doesn't feel right. Okay, let it go. And it's a natural thing, and it's just like a return back instead of moving away, which unfortunately seems to be how most of us are raised. Right.
I can always remember my mum when my children were very small. If they were getting in a kind of a state, she'd take them to the window and she'd go, oh, look, and she'd just pick something at random. It might have been a lamppost or somebody walk, and she would just distract them. And at the time, I was thinking that's too simple. They'd forget, but then I think that's too simple. She's really funny. Isn't that a funny thing for grandma to do? But what wisdom was there? Just natural wisdom. Really sweet.
So it's just, we point back to the natural.
Yeah.
And because it's natural, it's easy to pick up, especially for kids, in my experience.
Yeah, our seriousness added to it before, so it took longer for them because we got so serious. And now we can see how, especially our oldest son, because his temper is like huge, so he can go really into crazy thinking, but he can't stay. He can't stay. And it's happening so much quicker that if we have tried to help.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I can keep it up for a morning. Definitely. That's really easy. I just experimented last Saturday. She said, I didn't experiment. It was real. And it lasted a good 4 hours, I have to say. And it was real and it was true. And I was scheming and thinking about it all. And then I just don't know why I forgot, but I did forget. And then it just seemed utterly pointless to revisit it. And I just think, wow, that's terrific. Because, you know, I was a good 3-day person. That was well within my skill range. 3 days being the modest side.
That's another really huge thing, change for me. That I remember the first time that I went in a moment from taking my own thinking extremely serious and my angry thinking into just one moment, and I saw it was my thinking, and I couldn't help laughing. And I never tried. I was like, oh, is that possible? You can shift in a moment. I thought it was so serious, and like I had to grind on it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at, can you think of you've given examples. I mean, these questions do tend to blend into each other in a way, but is there anything that comes to mind, maybe in business or, again, in relationships, because that's really what business is comprised, where there's a specific instance, perhaps working with a client, or, you know, leave it up to you, really. Or if you feel we've covered that, we can just carry on talking about the relationship angle.
Do you have any recent insight?
Yeah, just a thing I've seen again and again, which I think is really a big a big stepping stone. I don't know if that's the right word, but on a practical level, one of the things I've seen where people might not get this, and I'm guilty of that myself sometimes when I get lost in heavy thinking. But one thing is, when I talk with clients, and when I talk with clients, they are very, how to say it, it's very easy to pick up the fact that when we look at life from different perspectives, life looks completely different. Like when we're in low mood, it's one image, and when we're in another mood, it's a completely different life. Same thing's happening, but it's a completely different picture. And there's the clarity simply brings completely different feeling, and solutions and whatever we might look for will appear. And people know this, right? There's a sense, okay, I remember, I recall this, I've seen this so many times in my life, in my kids' life, whatever. So people very quickly pick up on this. However, when you're caught in a low mood, what will very often happen, even though you've been pointed in this direction, is that from a low perspective, you try to imagine what it would be to look from a different perspective. So let's say we use the image of being stuck in your life, and you stand on the ground and you look at this huge wall in front of you. Yeah, and there's no way you can get around this wall, and you just feel, oh, I'm stuck. This is it. I'm done for. I can't get past this. If you looked at the same wall from the perspective of a chopper, like 300 feet up in the air, it would be a completely different situation. Yeah. However, what might very often happen, or what I've seen again and again, is from the ground perspective, then people might realize, okay, I'm not in a good place to figure this out. I know because I feel like crap, and I can't figure out what to do now. Yeah. So they think, oh, about this principle and clarity, and if I let go, I might see this in a more useful manner. So they imagine from the ground level what it would be like to look from the chopper. But from there, it might not seem helpful at all. So like, yeah, okay, I could be in a chopper, but that won't do any difference. I might as well just grind on from down here. You know, I don't know if it makes any sense. It's like there's all this old saying like, let go and let God and whatever. Because when we let go from a low perspective, like when we really got tunnel vision, things tend to open up and we get clarity, and that's really helpful. But what can often happen is like people hear this and they say, let go and let God, yeah, but really what could God do, right? Because we imagine it from such a low place. So I just think that is a very useful thing to keep in mind. Like, no, you can't figure out from your low perspective because it's low. So whatever you imagine, none of it will seem helpful.
Yeah. That's a really important example, really important. And, you know, I can relate to the times when I thought, well, you know about the principles, just figure it out, what are you doing here again, about the principle, and so on and so forth. It's got nothing to do with it. It's just really the combination of what you both said, really. It's just that understanding is enough. Trust the understanding. It's there all the time, and things will happen. Well, let's just lighten up a bit. And even that's not possible. In the sense, you can't make yourself lighten up, but when you know that it is possible, leave it at that. That's enough. Something will change.
And that can often be the hardest.
Yeah.
To leave it be.
Yeah, it has to come from understanding, because when you see deeper, how your intellect will never be the one who's going to help you here. So there is no way but letting go. As long as you try to figure out, you will be stuck.
Yeah.
So you have to see for yourself the deeper truth of this, that it's not just a funny idea Sydney Banks made up, that there is this deeper intelligence who's really running the business. It's true. I can't make myself think in a better mood.
No.
But I don't have to.
No, exactly. And that's part of it, isn't it? It's like we've labelled all our moods and we think we know best about which mood is best for us. And actually, I've come to see so often it's bringing me a different kind of gift. Like, I can see where I'm stuck. I don't need to cocoon myself in a world where I pretend everything's fine anymore. It's fine to feel like that because there's something there for me to see if it reveals itself, or if if it happens or it doesn't happen. It's just another life passing through.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is there anything that you would describe as your cutting edge, or what's really, really fresh for you? Maybe you've not even seen it, or you're just pondering it at the moment, in your experience right now?
One thing, sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah.
One thing I've seen, which I think it's just occurred to me like an insight. I heard it 1,000 times before, but it just makes sense in a different way when we get it like an insight. Yeah. And that's no matter, like when we get lost in our minds and our lives, and we're like at our wits' end, and then very often we will go out in the world and try to seek something, advice, help. We might want to get a different job, get a different spouse, get a different car, whatever, because there's this like a sense of lack when we don't feel okay, like homesickness, and we try to find it out there. Yeah. So when that happens, it's my experience that there's a sense of insecurity underlying this. We don't feel safe. And even though it might take on different expressions like anger or depression or worry, fear, there's just a sense that we're not at home. And instead of going back, we go out there, yeah, because we feel lost. But despite that, I've just seen many times that the innate sense of like the inner compass pointing us in the right direction is still working. And I think it's very valuable to see that even if you completely feel lost and like your life is screwed up and you don't know what to do, you're still the one controlling. That's not the right word.
Who knows what feels right?
Yeah, you're still the one who will determine what's right for you. In the sense that I can present, let's say I meet somebody and they ask for advice or whatever, and I might say, oh, look at this book, or talk with that person, or whatever. And they will still say, well, thanks, but no thanks. So no matter how far out you are, I don't know what to do, but they'll still say, no, I don't want that, I want that.
Yeah.
Where is that navigation coming from? Like that compass, it's still in here, right? So you still know this is not for me, but this is for me. I want to try that, whatever. And I remember I once stood in a bookshop and I picked up some books written by like doctors and professors and self-development experts. And I looked at these books and I thought, oh man, these guys know so much and I want to learn about it and I feel my life is screwed and I just want to improve, etc. So, and then I looked at the books and said, no, this is not for me. This, it might, and this. And then I wondered afterward, hey, but wait a minute. Those are the experts. So who am I to choose? But something in me just knew that's not for me and that is for me.
Yeah. Amazing.
I just feel that is really good to know when you feel lost. That at the end of the day, you know what to do and you're here, you chose that, or you are there and you chose that. So it's in here always.
It's like missing this flow because we're looking for a big flow. It's like it's the sort of stuff that it's right under our noses. You've just described so beautifully, and yet we're looking for something that looks more significant and looks more like a solution and a cure or a fix, and yet we're already exercising the very thing
we're looking for.
That we're looking for.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's very. You can feel a great deal of compassion for yourself and for others when you see that going on, because it's so close. As Sydney Banks said, we're a thought away.
And this is one of the beautiful things that starts to happen when you start to see the principles for yourself, that you start to navigate more from the inside, which is so much easier.
Yeah.
I spoke with a client yesterday I met for the first time, and she said when she got really lost, she was asking her friend for help, for advice. And she said, I really hate that I'm doing it. I don't want to do it, but this is what happens whenever I'm lost. And the annoying thing is that then I have to do these things she's saying, and they don't feel right.
That's funny, yes.
Yeah. So she could still feel if it felt right or not. She just thought you had to do them since she asked for advice. And it's just like whenever I get into a more confusing mood, a thought pops up, oh, I better call my supervisor. It's really important. Why haven't I done that for a while? And then whenever it falls down, I'm like, why would I call her? I don't need it. But we think we need it when we're caught up. I think we need something from the outside.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, I'm going to thank you both so much for giving me your time, or giving us your time, and to say I can't wait to see you in November. And are you looking forward to coming to Viva in November?
We are looking so much forward. Not only will we have to hang out with guys who's already also looking in this direction and sharing the beautiful feeling and the peace that can spontaneously happen when people go together, looking in this direction. There's also there might be a little sun.
Well, I was just thinking we're also allowed to enjoy the prospect of the possibility of a little sun. That's fine, isn't it? That's not a made-up happiness. That's going to be really nice. It's really true. Okay, well, I'll say goodbye and say cheerio to people who are watching, and thank you for joining us. And I'll put up information about the event and look forward to being with you in November. So thank you very much.
You too, Sue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.